good snap. That was a really good snap.
I got a good snap.
That's a good snap.
Snap back to reality, and welcome back to J equals J after 8 months.
I know, right? One of us could have practically had a child. And come back.
I mean, one of us could have had an entire marriage and come back.
Yeah.
It's him.
Huzzah. Yes. A lot of things happen. Job changes and marriages and
an entire world.
Relationships.
It's true. Relationships, marriages. It's all the things.
Yeah. A lot of stuff.
A lot
of stuff happened. We have a new setup because this is my apartment, which also I own now.
You own the apartment?
Yes, I own this entire complex. It turns out. Yes. No.
The world has changed.
I just have an apartment. Yes. Well, we do have a nice setup here.
I love this setup. Honestly, I think this is the best setup we've
had. It might be.
I actually think this looks amazing.
It does. It really does. It's not the only thing that looks amazing, Joseph.
No. Denis Villeneuve has an amazing face and also really is good at making amazing movies.
I was going to say your hair today, but we did just watch Dune.
Yes.
We did just finally watch Dune.
Yes, oh my gosh.
It's been long overdue, I should say.
Really, the sands of time just keep going.
There it is. A really bad Prince of Persia game.
That we literally just finished.
We did.
We immediately just I peed and he turned the TV onto this.
In that order.
Yes.
Well. But yeah, we just watched Dune. We're a little behind the curve. Realized that it came out literally last year. Today is the 26th of January. So
those jokes won't get old yet.
No, they won't. But we did just watch Dune, and I think we're both just... man, I'll say this to just kick things off. It's everything I love about sci-fi. All in one movie. I mean, it's like I don't want to skip to that conclusion, but it might be the best individual piece of sci-fi I've ever seen.
I mean, it's amazing. It is absolutely spectacular. And something I really appreciated is that it's so hard to find good fantasy nowadays.
Yes.
And that was as much a fantasy movie as it was a sci-fi movie, in my opinion.
I think so.
And it's so striking to have... I mean, I'm a sucker for Villeneuve's work at this point. Everything I've seen from him has just been an absolute hit for me, and so I'm just... At this point, I'm expecting it, but despite expecting it, it still blew me away.
Yeah. To add to the fantasy aspect of it, there are very few directors, filmmakers in this world that can take a piece of literature that has already established and built a world within that medium of writing, of books, like you see behind you. My Lord of the Rings collection, everybody. Anyway, but that's a good example.
Yeah.
So, what he has done with Dune, what Denis Villeneuve has done with Dune, man, there's only a couple people that have done that well at taking paper and dragging you into it with a screen. People that come to mind, like Chris Columbus, where he kicked off Harry Potter. Not an easy world to put onto a screen. Did a very good job. Obviously, what Peter Jackson did with Lord of the Rings, as good as that is, this is not going to be a Dune comparison podcast, right? But it definitely, this has to be one of the best, as you said, fantasy sci-fi film adaptions of a book.
And when we say that, it's not a judgment of faithfulness per se or anything like that. I hate to say I've never read Dune, but I never did get around to reading Dune, which I hate. I'm going to fix that at some point. But
I'm glad we saw this first.
Oddly enough,
me at least.
Oddly enough, I can agree with that because it really allowed me to have a completely blind drop into
blank slate.
What wanted to be created here.
Yeah.
And I haven't really heard complaints from people who read the books as well, but it really allowed me to just experience the fullness of this plot. I was going to say world, but I feel like the world isn't the important thing here.
No.
It's the the literal planet is important, Arrakis, but it's the oddly enough, it's hard for people to do this. It's the politics of everything.
It
Oddly
is.
enough, it is one of the hardest things to sell people on, I think. And somehow it was incredibly captivating to watch as these machinations unfold and see, so just good men, and I don't want to say too much, even though we're months past the initial release date now. Home release isn't out yet.
Spoilers is, I think, for the most part, okay.
That's fair.
We'll try to stay spoiler free, but obviously, I mean, like, there's,
there might be little things pop out here and there.
It's been out for a little bit. So.
But it really was just an impressive feat from multiple angles. From obviously the cinematography is always fantastic with his work, but then the fact I could follow the plot when I haven't read the book, and it's a very political heavy plot. But it's not just a lot of politics, a lot of again, machinations from a religious standpoint, and again, a lot of even those two combined together, where there's clearly much more going on. There's not just false religion of manipulation, but then also a sense of reality to what is being observed.
Well, you used a term when we were during the movie. You commented how you love just the technology aspect of it. We're looking at pretty much Star Wars level civilizations, extremely advanced. They fly from planet to planet. They have a giant space tube that takes them.
They do, yes.
They do have the giant space tube, which was pretty cool. I'd like to see more space tubes in part 2. But you used the word primal with it.
Yeah.
And it was like the Freeman are like, or Furman or whatever the heck. Furman, yeah. They're so like Tusken Raider-ish.
The thing is, it wasn't even...
And it's like, it is kind of like this primal aspect, and like it does pop up at the beginning of the movie, year 10,000 something. So you take it as, okay, it's just 8,000 years into our future, but it's still so primal and indigenous feeling.
And it's honestly the thing when I was referring to when I mentioned primal was, I forget the name, but the mother, that whole sect, again, when you got into sort of the people that controlled the voice and that kind of thing, that with the box and all of that, when they were landing to test Paul, that was when it really struck me again, like the primal nature of like this, it almost stripping down to the core of you hold power.
It was very...
There is nothing refined about it. There is nothing contained or modified. It is just raw power.
And it was like, it's not like the like force kind of stuff, like it's almost like power of will is what it really feels like to me. It's just like this sheer unspoken but driven, but not everybody has it, kind of raw power. It's really like
just what, fear, the exact phrase is eluding me now, but that fear being death and like ooh, it's really like deep, and especially like, again, they do the politic thing right, but it's just like there is a strict divide between each of these cultures in this film. House Atreides pretty much like privileged white people for the most part, and then just the Harkonnens being literally some of the most terrifying scenes I have ever seen. Like, it's great, but it's so like when he stands up, right? Like you kind of the first time
you kind of like sit down in your seat watching it. Like It overwhelms you.
And that's something I was actually going to get to, was just when going back to more just the spectacle of the film.
Yeah.
So many moments were overwhelming.
It was
like even the smallest things of when their ship was leaving the Atreides homeland.
Yeah.
And you can see like it's just the water, and then you see the ship come
Coming
from
up
it
out of the water.
Little shots like that to the more obvious ones of the worms, or
Face to face with the worm was
again the leader of the I'm forgetting the name, but the guy that
Harkonnens.
Thank you, Harkonnen. Yeah, when he rises up and you're just like, oh, hi.
He is. I read that somebody, I think, Denis Villeneuve's inspiration to capture him on film. Mm-hmm. He was supposed to be like, and maybe this is from Frank Herbert. I don't know.
Right.
This might be, but he was supposed to be the human embodiment of a rhinoceros.
I love that.
Just very big.
Yeah, and like scary, strong, yet large, and like
he has like the world's greatest beer belly, right?
It really
and the world's biggest arms.
That thing is winning competitions. Like
I was like, God, this guy's he's look at this fat and flabby guy lifts up a dude by his hair, right? Like, with Dave Bautista in the room nearby watching.
His nephew, but Dave Bautista.
His extremely smaller nephew, Dave Bautista. Yeah, it's just not overwhelming in that it's overwhelming that you want to know more about every little aspect of this film.
But your sense of place is so small.
It is.
That's something that really struck me a lot, was that the entire film makes you feel small, like one of the grains of sand in the film itself, but it's not doing so to like belittle or anything. It's the reality of how large the world around you is and how large everything happening around you is.
And obviously it is setting the scale for whatever events, which I don't know and I don't plan on knowing, happen.
And at this point,
happen in part 2.
I do want to read the novel at this point.
I will wait until I see the second movie.
Even though that'll be years, like I kind of agree. I kind of want to experience this all in one universal setting.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same way that I felt about Blade Runner 2049. I had not seen the original Blade Runner.
Really?
No, I had not seen it. I kind of did some reading about it. Like
excellent movie.
One of Harrison Ford's. Again, I haven't seen it, but I know one of his classics.
Honestly, definitely. I think it might be my favorite sci-fi experience.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but it's a very unique one. But it's very.
I had not seen it before I watched 2049. I had just heard so many good things about 2049, and it was just. I just knew it was good. I had heard it was really good. I only watched it last year.
Yeah.
I watched it, and I think I told you about this. And if anybody's watched our gameplays, maybe they know. Maybe the screen that they've watched the gameplays off of was on the same TV. I had a 24-inch Vizio when I lived at my parents' house. A great little TV.
Is that what you watched it on?
I watched 2049.
That's so sad. That film deserves like an 80-inch screen.
No, it does. But it sucked me in, and it was an amazing experience on a 24-inch Vizio.
That's the thing, though. It really does.
And I didn't know anything about the movie really going in. I knew it had Ryan Gosling in it, so I was expecting one woman to swoon after him. Didn't really happen.
Nope.
But it was a good role for him, I will say. I loved him in it. He was great. But it was like that movie, again, going into it not knowing anything about what was happening before, helped me so much be glued into it and interested in it. And they do touch on parts of Blade Runner.
They do. They
Harrison Ford.
Yes,
they touch on parts of it. And I learned enough reading up beforehand a little bit about what the heck is going on, and also just being enthralled in everything 2049 was, that it was on my 24-inch Vizio. I will watch it on a bigger screen again someday.
Yes.
On my 24-inch Vizio, it was one of the best viewing experiences I have ever had. And that says a lot about his movies. Again, it does deserve to be watched in an IMAX theater. Yes. But it will suck you in no matter what screen you're watching because of Again, it's world building.
Yeah, and well, something I think it's cool to see with Villeneuve now is the rise of a director that we can say handles another. Like, I feel like we've seen movies that try to adapt a novel or try to take a previous work or something, and they try to handle it and bring it into a new light, and they don't succeed, or at least not universally succeed.
Yeah.
Because we've got, my particular one that I love to just harp on in the worst possible ways, Ender's Game. Ender's Game is a favorite novel of mine.
Also a Harrison Ford movie.
It's really, I feel sorry for Harrison that he
Sadly.
started that. But the movie just is a disgrace to the book, it's just like this.
The movie's a disgrace to movies.
It's
in
just
general.
like a generic action movie, sort of. Like, it's so bad, and it's a disgrace to the book, and I it's terrible. But then on the other hand, so it's like I've seen things like that.
Well, it's like wasn't Valerian in the City of a Thousand Planets?
That was something else.
Well, that was something else.
Yeah, that was something else. But
that was also a very generic action movie where someone. Anyway, they tried.
But no,
really
but yeah, with that one, it was like, oof. And then you see other things. I mean, regardless of personal opinions on things like the sequel trilogy with Star Wars, that is taking a new, old thing now and bringing it, or older, multiple generation thing, bringing it into a new light, and it didn't get to everybody. And not everybody agreed with how. Even if people liked some of the movies, they didn't like all of them. If they liked some movies, they didn't like others. If they liked... Generally, I found the people that liked 8 hated 9, liked 9 didn't like 8,
there was
liked 7. There was no consensus. There was no...
Well, there was no congruency among the films themselves. And that's kind of what... again, as you're saying, like, so many people have tried to do this. I watched this film, and again, I didn't want to compare anything, but I watched this film, and I was like, man, Dune came out 2 years after the sequels finished, and the sequels are trying so hard to be Dune, but they couldn't because Dune did everything that they did better. And again, I know I'm comparing.
Yeah, I'm not trying to directly compare them. But
I'm not trying to directly compare them, but it's like you watch this film and you see everything else that the other movies can't do.
It's the legacy.
The directors can't do.
Like, even though this film has just come out, you can feel a legacy behind the film.
This is going to be a classic for years.
Right. Like, this film will stand the test of time. You can instantly see it. And I think that is such a powerful thing to see when you compare it to the other greats of, taking old works, which we know we've already listed them off.
Lord of the Rings is still loved.
And
deeply
I'm not
20 years later,
right? And I'm not saying this is the next Lord of the Rings, but I am saying that it is very, I guess, like, satisfactory to my. I hate to say my soul is a bit dramatic, but kind of a little bit of like that inner kind of self when you're watching these things, to just see that helm is continuing to be carried forward of a reverent but unafraid take on being able to ride these my analogies are slipping my tongue, but I was trying to go somewhere really cool with that. My metaphors out the window. But to be able to take these old franchises is the wrong word, but these stories, these places, these creations, and breathe life into them without turning them into, this isn't necromancy. This is almost more of a revival or a heir to its own ancestry, heir to the throne. I don't know.
Yeah, like yeah. No, it's. But again, you're finding yourself at a lack of words.
I am really.
And I think that's what that's what I felt. We both kind of. I think the last time me and you watched a movie together, and we did that at the end of the movie, was Joker.
Yeah, we saw that one in theaters. Yeah,
we saw that in theaters together with my now wife, we both just kind of went, like, at the end, like that sigh of like, oh my Lord, that was satisfying.
Yeah, it was satisfying.
I was not ready for what I just saw, and We both just kind of sat there at the end
Yep.
during the credits of Dune and we're like,
Honestly, it's one of my favorite things too.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite. That is almost why I watch film nowadays.
Yeah.
Is
yeah.
like there's
wanna be
definitely
left
things
like that.
right. There are
Yeah.
things that I watch for the fun of it and that kind of thing. I definitely do that. But if I want to watch cinema, we'll say the
Cinema.
Scorsese term,
Yes, sir.
the
Yes.
beautiful, correct Scorsese term.
Martin Scorsese. Yeah.
If I want to watch cinema, that is the experience I want.
Yeah.
I want to sit there at the end and be like, wow, I don't have words for this.
Yeah.
I have to consider myself before I go and like think about what's happening next. You know?
And that's not a short movie. It's hard to do that and make a long movie at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So you keep people like sucked into what you are showing on a screen. Spike there for the clap in my hands. You keep people sucked into the screen for 2.5 to 3 hours. So hard to do. So hard to do. So much happened in Dune. Granted, this probably happened over on the planet Arrakis, 20 square miles maybe. Like,
I mean, some of that stuff was probably way more, but
some of it was like the
actual
sandstorm, but like all
like the
the
main
conflict,
city stuff was
the
all
conflict
in the city,
was
yeah.
for the most part in one situated area. Obviously,
Yeah.
at the end when they fly, spoilers, through the sandstorm and find
Yeah,
Frodo,
but the
right?
main, you're right, the main conflict, a lot of the main action around the Atreides family was all confined to that base area they had
Yeah,
created.
it really
We didn't get to
not-
see anything from the front end side of things, really.
No, really, we didn't. I think we're going to see a lot more in part 2, and I think that's the point because they end up with them at the end of the movie. But it was just, it's hard to take somewhat of a confined space. That's one of the things that Star Wars had it going for is you got a galaxy to play with. They play with like 2 planets maybe in this. Maybe a third when they talk about
I mean,
where,
you see...
where the Harkonnens are.
I was going
like,
to say, you have the Atreides family's planet, which you kind of start the movie in.
Kaladin,
You see,
yeah, it's basically
and
Earth.
then, but it pretty much all happens on Arrakis. And
Yeah.
then you get clips of the, and again, I forget their name every
the
time.
Sith planet of
Yes.
the Harkonnens or whatever. When they have dudes
they're
laid
like,
up on stones using their blood to
Yeah.
Simba,
I know
the warriors.
and the symbology of like the upside down, right? Like I was like, oh,
While the Mongolian throat singer, yeah,
Dude, that was
at the
intense.
top, I was like, what am I watching?
there were so many good moments where it was just
what in the world?
the
Yeah.
power of things happening. On the opposite side, something that really hit me when it came to kind of that sound design stuff was when the invasion happened and the callback of the Atreides, the bagpipe came in,
Yeah.
and like it's like the
Middle
bagpipe
East
is such
bagpipe,
a right,
yeah.
but like it's the bagpipe. You know, we like to kind of make light of it because it's just a goofy instrument, but at the same time, it is a very regal instrument. It has that very formal like militaristic. That's where a lot of usage is, and that's why we use it to play things.
Yeah,
like,
it really kind of helped establish the Atreides as almost like a monarchy,
right,
almost.
and like
That's the way it
it is
felt,
the
really.
their house. It is, and they represent the entirety of like the family represents the entirety of their house, and they are unified, and they are one unit together. And so to have that music swell in with the other music of the bagpipe itself as the invasion happened was like, this truly is the fight for the house of Atreides, you know. Not just the fight for survival, but for almost an ideal.
Yeah.
Because Oscar Isaac is an ideal.
Very much so. Man.
And I loved his character too. God.
All the characters did, there was such... I mean, props to Frank Herbert for making
Right.
the coolest character to ever have the first name Duncan and the last name of Idaho.
Idaho is kind of a cool last name.
I'm
I
glad,
give it credit.
I'm glad,
I give it credit.
like Duncan, Idaho. It wouldn't have been well if it was like Jonathan, Missouri, or
No.
some crud. Like,
It's, Duncan shouldn't be cool, but Duncan, Idaho kind of worked.
sounds. It's such a cool name, but it's like
No, it's...
I was like, that's an interesting name.
Where'd you come up with that one?
All the last names are like way out there.
He's
Everybody's
like,
names is like Paul.
You know, Frank was...
Tim.
When he made it, Frank was like driving down the interstate in the middle of the Midwest, and he was tired, and he went and got some donuts, and then he was like,
I want some
I'm
potatoes.
I'm in a Dunkin' Donuts in Idaho.
Dunkin', Idaho.
But then also props. I feel like
Starbuck, Washington, I guess was not on the list.
Oh man, but
My name is Caribou, Delaware. What's
Delaware?
your name?
Hey,
They don't spell it DUNKIN apostrophe though.
I'm
yeah.
Cream Carolina. Cream Carolina.
Oh, yeah, that's not a stripper name at all.
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh man.
Anyway,
Thanks, Frank.
yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Frank, for
no,
that.
it's.
I was gonna say a lot of props to some actors that I think people have been willing to write off due to previous roles as kind of one note or too goofy or that kind of thing. Jason Momoa killed it in the role as Idaho.
Yes, as much as we were just joking
Right.
about this name.
But no, actually, like, absolutely nailed the role.
Yeah.
Funny side thought, some friends and I were talking about if they ever made a God of War game in fan casting, low-key Momoa would be a great Kratos. Like, I actually think he'd kill it. If he kept himself serious and got a little older, he could totally pull off that
for
boy
sure.
energy.
Boy. Yeah.
Boy.
Timothy Chalamet would be his son.
That would work. It really would.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, fantastic role.
Oh my gosh.
Man, I think, the most powerful scene in the movie for me was between him and his mother in the tent. Towards
Yes.
The end.
Oh my gosh.
Like, if I'm a cameraman, like, you're just frozen watching him and Rebecca Ferguson, who always delivers great performances as well. She is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that scene was just like
He
raw
was so,
emotion.
They were so commanding,
sweating and crying and snotting, and then drinking that later in the scene. Like that was so much raw emotion in that scene. Like,
and I love it too because Paul is somebody that has very specifically. The entire movie is building that he holds back. That he not in like he has this deep primal thing he's holding back, but like he doesn't lash out.
He's trying to be an Atreides.
Right, he doesn't lash out.
Yeah.
He doesn't reach in anger. He doesn't that he maintains his calm. He keeps himself, battle ready, but it's in a sense of, again, like that fighter's will of being collected, calm, ready to see what is happening. He has the steadiness to,
very
catch
much
the mosquito.
Very much like Oscar Isaac's character.
Right.
He's not very strong-willed, but also very ethical in everything that he does. He doesn't want to kill the dude at the end, but
Right.
it is kind of a Paul coming out of his shell movie a little bit because he kind of has to.
Right. But the moment there in the tent where he finally, everything that has been clawing at him, his visions, the world around him, his now that his father's death, like everything just coming to a head, and one of the most
Get off me.
one of the most believable moments of like just the snap, like that.
Snap, yelling at his mother, which
who is still incredibly suspicious on so many levels.
Yeah,
what is up with that whole group?
I don't understand.
I'm ready.
The mother has a bigger part in this, I know. And they kind of put her in the back seat a little bit after that scene. Because Paul kind of, again, like once he kind of comes through.
It's all about him becoming the leader of Atreides.
He kind of takes over, right?
Yeah.
But there's something more with that. But just that scene alone, like really, it's like small stuff like that. Again, just the the raw emotion, like we felt it in here watching this scene, and when you can get somebody to feel that way, man, it's tough to do that when you just have a couple minutes.
Yep.
A scene I compare it to that last scene I probably watched that made me feel that way was, maybe again it was with Joker with this again, like the smiling on top of the taxi with the blood on his face. Like,
I will say to me it was,
and the Hobbit's crying at the end of Return of the King gets me every time. Anyway. It's sad.
No, it's very sad. Well, and it's true that like that, and that's something. If you are going to draw comparisons, that I think you could see, like, again, that kind of fantasy side of things and how impactful these people are in one movie, where you have like you can draw a lot of comparison without necessarily the fall aspect of it, but the final stands of Duncan and Boromir. And how like fighting to save what they have come to, what they believe in.
Yeah.
Obviously, in Boromir's case, there's a lot more actively happening emotionally and like decision-wise and that kind of thing. But the moment of like really putting everything out for your ideals, for your future, for whatever, and sacrificing all for it, like it's the fact that it touches on these same themes and does so well. Really does speak volumes. And just like we're looking for volume 2.
We are. I can't wait for it. I don't know when it's coming out.
No idea, but it is confirmed that it's happening.
I think I saw something about like sometime 2023.
That would be amazing.
So maybe like end of 2023, so 2 years apart.
Yeah.
They might be doing the same thing where they're filming them.
I would love that,
side by side. I think that's what they're doing. Well, I would like to think they would think so anyway, but I have no doubt it's going to be amazing. I originally, when this movie came out, I didn't know it was going to be a two-parter.
Oh yeah.
I just
nice.
Well, I mean, I realized that once I had read up more about it.
Right, but when you first saw
went on IMDb, looked at Dune, scrolled down, saw Dune Part 2, and I was like, oh, okay, two-parter. So,
But no, did you have any kind of concluding thoughts or anything?
Maybe not. Did you have any critiques? I'm curious.
God, this is not an actual critique, but something I think that will prevent it from becoming Lord of the Rings per se down the line is that there are something that I think draws Lord of the Rings as a trilogy together is that the Fellowship, essentially, where you have this core group that from the beginning is there with you through the end and that kind of thing. Not a critique against the film at all, but I think something that will prevent it from having quite the same impact is that we don't get that in Dune, where we have 2-3 people that are going to that are going to come from the first movie into the second. Yeah. Because really, I know we've talked all the spoilers now, like almost everybody dies, which is huge. And again, not a critique. Absolutely the correct thing for the movie. It was amazing.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you lose. So Leto Atreides, dies. Duncan Idaho dies. We have no idea where Gurney is. Josh Brolin's character.
True.
We have no idea where he is.
Kind of assumed, but he could be alive.
Yeah, he could be. It's just we'll just have to see.
Yeah, but like the main with like his father and Duncan being vital people to mention.
Major characters not carrying over into the next.
Even smaller things like obviously the Doctor that had his role in the film. No, it'll be very interesting, and I'm curious how certain other characters will kind of, if we'll see more of them, not just more of them, but like a stronger emphasis on their role, like Dave Bautista's character.
Yeah.
I don't know them. Right, because really, he is who he is, and like he fulfills the role, but he fulfills a very like subservient role of like I go, that kind of thing. But he also gets a decent bit of screen time for being that kind of role, and it makes me very curious what he develops into. Yeah, because again, I don't know.
I mean, like, and rightfully so, he is deathly afraid of Baron Harkonnen,
Baron,
whatever.
The Baron.
The Baron. We'll call him that for now. It really is like this. And again, it's hard to describe how overwhelming of a character is for a character like Dave Bautista. It's his uncle, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, it's his uncle, and so I'm interested to see what they do with his characters, because even some of in that one scene where Leto Atreides dies, a lot of Harkonnen's little leeches are killed off, except for him, really. So
random side thing. What was up with the pet? Remember, they're like, take that pet away from me. Oh my gosh. Lord. Such a random moment.
Okay, but it's a giant spider with human hands.
It was like a spider with hands, and it was eating out of like a dog food thing, and it just like walked it. I was like,
walked away, and like it just.
Hi, what are you?
Yeah, I don't need that in part 2. I'll tell you.
I kind of want to see more of them in part 2. I'm so
I hope
curious.
There's only one, and I hope it dies within the first 5 minutes. That's my critique. That's my critique of this film: is the giant spider with man hands. It was too much for you. That was like, I was not ready. For a lot of this, but that took a couple seconds for my brain to go, oh god, that needs to die. We need to burn that stat. Like,
that was a thing.
It was like oily.
It was so random,
black.
Which I love.
It was like, it literally just like, it was like eating, and the guy was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Go shoo, go play." And it's like, wait, no, we'll go. What? No, don't do that. But yeah, no really critiques. It's just an awesome movie, and I'm so excited.
Yes.
For part 2, excited that we got to do this.
Very much so. 8 months.
Yeah. Well, I'll see you in 2023 for the next episode of the Jangles
on Dune,
about Dune
on
2.
Dune 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, we're trying to get together more and make more stuff, because we have a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yes.
It's been. Yep. But yeah, no, definitely more things we want to talk about. Amazon's Lord of the Rings series releases later this year, September 2nd. I mean, we've got the Book of Boba Fett, which finishes pretty soon. The Book of Boba Fett. I completely had a stroke while I was asking him if he watched Book of Boba Fett earlier. Yes. I can't say it.
You literally said Boogada.
I looked at him and said, so, have you been keeping up with the Book of Boba Fett? It came out just like that.
The Book of Boba Fett.
I
will never get over that.
Just like that.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But until next time, love y'all very much.
Yes.
It's been far too long.
Yes, it has. Stay beautiful. We're going to have to set up next time too, because it looks good.
This is good. I like
it. It's nice. Really nice. Yeah. Peace.